A very good morning to everyone. Welcome to our daily devotion. Today we'll be focusing on Psalms chapter 91. So turn to your Bibles, either physical or digital, whichever's to your comfort, and let's get into it. First, we look at the context briefly before taking a short application from the selected chapter. So let's look at the context. Here, the psalmist begins by saying that evil cannot defeat those who trust in God, and he goes on to say how God will rescue those who love him. He knows that God will rescue those who love him, and that God will protect those who ask him for help and those who trust him. And then he compares God to shields or the walls of those days in ancient Jerusalem or Israel, that the walls that protect the nations. And he believes that nothing can threaten his life. He goes on to say that nothing can threaten his life because he is God's own. And he goes on to say, again, multiple verses, he goes on to say how God reigns over evil, that God is too strong, that God is too powerful, and that he uses some metaphors and figures of speech that even when men prowl the city and unseen terrors that haunt the night, no evil can breach God's defenses. And finally, he ends the Psalms by saying that his confidence is not grounded in wishful thinking or in a sense delusion per se, but his confidence is grounded in God himself. So he ends the psalm by saying that. So this is briefly what the psalmist is talking in the psalm. So what can we take away from this? So in our lives, in our day-to-day lives, there will be a lot of moments where we are uncertain, a lot of moments where we have doubts, and a lot of moments where we have fear, especially what will happen in the future, anxiety. So for this psalm is a very good testament that God reigns over all those fears, all those anxieties, and all those doubts. So Jesus says in Matthew, in the Beatitudes, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus puts it wonderfully: the birds and the bees, even they don't fear for their food. Then why are we God's prized creation? We are God's prized creation. Why should we fear? Like, why should we be anxious for our future? So this is something small we can take away from the Psalms, that God is our refuge and God is our fortress, that we can trust him safely in the midst of our struggles, in the midst of our fears, in the midst of our doubts. We can be sure and assured, and we can put our full on trust in that God is always there overseeing that, and that in the end, after the pain and after the struggle, we will look back at whatever pain we went through, whatever struggle we went through, and we will come out of this to be a very bright and shining testimony that God has worked through our lives. And yeah, so I'll end this with again a small question for you guys to reflect on. First, let's take a step back and think. When you are in such a moment, like when you are anxious or when you feel like big worry is about to come in your life, or when you're so scared of the future, where do you go to first? Okay? When in times of doubt, when in times of fear, where do you go first? Think of that and let me know. Thank you.